do you have any tips on, when you negotiate with HR about a contract?
I think this is more you than a me question, but
How about like when you
I
first?
always have. I
Yeah.
mean, I've always felt like I felt like I had a lot of leverage,
Hmm.
um, because like just how long I've been with the company
Hmm.
and like how much they paid me. I knew I was getting underpaid for
Hmm.
a while.
Yeah.
And that's because like like I've grown into my role quite a bit during the time they first gave me, like a staff position and whatnot. So like I had like some years already where they hadn't bumped up my rate. So I
Yeah.
knew going in that I had a lot of leverage. I could ask for a lot more.
Hmm.
So I think it's what's helpful is like knowing your position, like knowing how much leverage you have. Like how like do the studio really want you,
Hmm.
or are you just somebody else that they can replace?
Hmm.
If you're like in a mid-level role, but your skills are like a senior, if you're confident that like like, I've been to another studio and I've performed in that role and I know my skill level is comparable to a senior,
Hmm.
um, and not like saying like you be realistic about it. Don't be like, hey, I think I'm like a senior.
Hmm.
If you're actually not as good as what the senior is, then you're obviously not as good.
Yeah.
But if you really feel like, hey, I've got skills, then then that's one point of leverage that you have.
Yeah.
Then you think like, okay, um, at what stage in the project is the movie at,
Production.
or
Yeah.
the production, or the film, the advertising studio, or whatever. Like how badly do they need me, at this point? Do they need me? Like, am I someone that is very hard to find?
Hmm.
If you're like a rigger, you're like in a very good position because really good riggers are hard to find.
Hmm.
But if you're a really good rigger, then that's
Yeah.
leverage on your part as well. So
Yeah.
I guess it's just like factoring in all these different um, areas where you think you have an advantage. But
Yeah.
yeah, I want to see what you think, because you've obviously done this way more than I have. So
Well, I've been terrible at contract negotiation, to be honest. And I wish people would, you know, actually in the beginning sit down and talk to me about it. I think, like I said, I've always lowballed myself because I didn't think I was worth it or I was as good as I am, which I think a lot of artists go through, right? Um,
yeah,
and
that's the definition of being
yeah,
being an artist.
yeah, and you know, and weirdly enough, I'm like someone who likes to sort of debate or you know, but for some reason, when it comes to contract negotiations, I'm just not great at it in the beginning. And then, but now it's like I think it's all about leverage because, like you said, when if you're confident about your position and what you can bring to the table, and if you have, like, for example, a backup plan, like another offer from another studio, that's when you can go all in, where you're like, I don't care if the studio doesn't want me. I got something else lined up. It'll be, you know, it doesn't, I have nothing to lose. And that's when usually I find myself having the best like
Yeah,
negotiation,
yeah.
you know?
It's like
Um,
it's like a bad relationship. Is
yeah.
like the more you love them, the
Yeah.
if you love them more than they love you, then you're you're in a
Yeah.
losing position.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's a
it's,
terrible way to say it, but like that's kind of what it is.
yeah, it is. And, I think studios don't, um, I wouldn't say it's anything personal. I think just studios in general don't value artists until they lose them. And then they're like, ah, man, I wish we kept it, like, kept them.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
then,
should have paid this guy more.
yeah. And then when they come, like,
Should
and
have done
then
more.
it's like the song and dance, really, because you go away for a bit and they come back and they're like, hey, you know what? We'll give you a salary that's higher than what you asked for. Like, and like in the
Yeah,
beginning, like, and people, like, artists start to think like, oh, why didn't you just give me that in the beginning? Then we don't need to have the song and dance. Um, And that's something
Yeah.
that, you know, that's just part of the game. You need to jump around to sort of get to the next level. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's for any industry. But I feel like this industry is, you know, it's pretty obvious that you have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also really helps to have worked at the studio before already
Mhm,
and made a good impression. Like obviously if you work somewhere and you were just like average,
mhm,
then you're not really gonna stand out when you go back again and they
mhm.
kind of need people. They might just see you as just another average artist. So I
Yeah.
think it's important to like obviously continue to try to impress and try to like outdo yourself so that um when you do go back to a studio, they're like, this guy was like, or this girl was like really good. We
Mhm.
need this person back.
Yeah.
This is a crusher. We
Yeah.
know this is a vetted person already. We're willing to pay more because this
Mhm.
person can do what we think they can do. Whereas
Exactly.
like if you're going a job at a new studio, they don't quite know who you are. All they have is your reel
You're
and the
real.
word of
Yeah.
mouth of others. So that's another important thing. It's like if you know a lot of people in the industry that are like in like good positions or like seniors, or you've worked with these people a lot, they can vet for you, which
Mhm.
is what happens a lot at studios where like the recruitment HR would like ask someone that they've worked with,
Yeah.
someone that you've worked with before, like, hey, how's this person?
Mhm.
So it's super important, I think,
Mhm.
relationships and making good impressions and
Yeah.
um, forming friendships, because it helps you also like so much in the industry, like in this intangible way that you can't
Yeah.
quantify. You can't say like, you know,
They all
yeah,
factor in actually to the contract negotiations, even though we're like sort of, I guess, deviating to social, uh, like getting to know
yeah.
people.
It's a bit of
But it's
another
really
bit of a side topic, but yeah, it is
no,
important.
yeah, because I wanted to say like, you know, for me to get like, you know, the I guess like an offer, like I got an offer and it was purely through someone I knew or someone I worked with who was a lead at the studio. And you know, he vouched for me and you know, immediately next week I got an interview with like the Anim Soup. And those things, you know, those things matter. So, you know, if you have people that you know that work in the studio that are in high positions, like you said, you know, that's definitely, you know, that gives you more leverage. That's a leverage for your
Yeah,
contract negotiation. So yeah, that's
for
something
sure.
that definitely people need to think about as well. And
Yeah,
you know,
it opens doors. It's not just like giving you the leverage for the interviews. It's also like giving you
mm-hmm,
opportunity to like maybe you wouldn't have had that opportunity if you
mm-hmm.
didn't know that person. But it's not like don't go sucking up to people, because
I
that's
was just
different.
gonna say, I was thinking like whether this is a whole new, like another topic that, but I feel like we
We should
should mention
definitely go
it.
into this as
Yeah,
another topic, but yeah, like
yeah,
don't go sucking up to people is the
yeah,
the short of it, because it's like there's
yeah,
a difference between like genuinely being friends with someone and
mhm,
just being a cool person to hang out with or to
yeah.
to work with, as opposed to like someone who just like wants to be your friend just so that they can use you. There's
Like
like a
the
huge,
like a motive,
yeah,
like
don't have
someone
any
to, yeah.
ulterior motives. Just go in the industry and then just be cool to work with. Like
Hmm.
is the long and short of it. Just be
Yeah,
someone fun to be around and
yeah, and
like
that's like, I mean,
good
if you're
morale.
not, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if you're not like a super sociable person, don't go like crazy trying to be one. Like, you know, you can just
Yeah.
have a beer after work one
Yeah.
day, like here
Yeah.
and there,
Don't not
and
be yourself, but
yeah, yeah, because people can sense that, and you can like, I can honestly say that there's a lot of, uh, I wouldn't say this is I wouldn't call it thirst traps, but like, you know, but there's a lot of thirsty people that you like that, you know, me and like my colleagues do notice when, you know, people know, like found out you're in a certain position, they suddenly become like a lot like nicer or just different,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, it happens a lot and people can
Yeah.
tell, and people like just from that it turns people off, and you
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah. Straight away.
you know,
And you can tell like it's someone, yeah, is like that because
Hmm.
they act differently to you than they act to a supervisor. And I
Hmm.
always make it a point to treat everyone the same, no matter if they're a junior, they're a soup or whatever. They don't even work in production. They're just the,
Hmm.
they're just like an IT guy. I treat everyone the same because that's just how you should treat people.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
doesn't really, obviously if they're older, then I give them like the respect, as like
Hmm.
someone who has seniority. But
Hmm.
um if they're like the same age as me and they're just like every other person, then I just treat them like every other person.
And that's what,
um
yeah, that's what people should do.
yeah,
Regardless, but I
yeah,
think it is true
exactly.
that it needs to
That's
be
like,
said.
yeah, it needs to be said because, yeah, some
Yeah.
people don't understand and they treat their soups like they're like, this holier than thou person or whatever, or like
Hmm.
um they don't treat you as good because you're a junior or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah.
That I think, yeah.
And I think, okay, let's look at it logically, right? That's the funniest. Like, uh, yeah, I mean, I treat my supervisor like, I definitely give them more respect in terms of what they have accomplished. I have to, like, there's no doubt about that. But in
Yeah.
terms of general respect, I treat everyone the same. And I think that, it would be silly not to, because think about you're starting off as a junior and you're sucking up to these big guys, these soups or leads, right? At one point, you're going to become a senior or a mid, and the class you came up with are going to be the same, and one of them it's going to become a lead or a soup before you, more than likely, right? Um, and if you treated them without like any respect in the beginning,
You're in a bad
you're
spot.
you're in a bad spot. You're coming up with these guys like, like logically that doesn't make sense. So that's why it's
Yeah,
important to treat everybody the same. And
yeah, yeah, yeah. Even,
yeah,
yeah. That's a good way to put it. Even if you're like,
yeah,
even if you're not naturally someone who can like treat everyone the same,
yeah,
think of it that way, so
yeah.
that
If you're like a
so that it
really like
evens the playing
selfish
field.
person, think of it that way. Like it affects you, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Whether you can see the long picture or not. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it does happen like often where like someone, like maybe you're studying with them and they're a year below you
Hmm.
and you think like you're better than them for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Chances are you're probably not.
Yeah.
You're probably the same, and that person could potentially become your suit. So
Yeah.
um, just because you're like a couple of years ahead or whatever doesn't mean shit like in the
Yeah.
industry, because they could go somewhere to another studio and they can crush, and then they can be a soup there, and then you go apply for that job, and if you're a dick to that person,
Yeah.
or like you had this aura of like superiority or whatever,
Hmm.
then your chances are worse because they know you, like, this guy, I didn't like him. I
Yeah.
remember studying with this guy, I didn't like him.
Yeah.
um so yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I
good
think
thing
it's definitely,
to
yeah,
consider.
it's definitely like, I mean, I've only saw it start like, okay, why I saw it this way was because clearly I've experienced a lot of like a lot of
You've been
not
through
assholes,
this.
but like, certain, like you see certain people being, kind of weird. And then at the same time, like, I'm actually seeing, because now I'm in a senior role, um, and you see all your friends, like the people you came up with, every single one of them are getting, you know, either a lead, like they're advancing in their career, and it feels like almost it happens all at the same time. So
Yeah,
then it made me think like, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm glad, like, I was never a dick like to anybody,
yeah,
because like
exactly.
I was like, oh, my friends are like becoming leads. If I was ever a dick to them, they'd probably be like, yo, we don't want this guy. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
But on the
yeah,
flip side, because like you made good relationships,
yeah,
like it opened doors up for you, like you're saying, like
mhm,
you got
yeah,
like job offer because you knew someone, and
yeah,
so like the upside is so big and the
mhm,
downside is
yeah,
so little to being just nice to people. So
yeah. Just being nice, and if you can socialize and you like socializing, you should. Um,
yeah,
because it does go a long way. I mean, I talked to these guys like a little bit about, animation when I was starting out, but most of the time it was just, complaining about work and drinking and, just shooting shit. And I think,
Yeah.
you don't need to be best friends with people. You just need to be, you can hang out and have a beer. And I think it's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like at the end of the day, sometimes I think like, what's the point of like sometimes I think like, what's the point of all this? Like,
Mhm.
if you kind of just enjoy yourself, just like live life or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like we're working this 9 to 5 office job where we're like
Mhm.
got like a dick boss that we're always stressed about, and we have like paperwork and stuff. We're like doing this like really fun, creative thing, and
Mhm.
um, it's sometimes you lose sight of that, but it's
Yeah.
like going out and just like hanging out with cool people, because everyone in the industry is cool. Like that's
Yeah.
what I notice is if you're not like a cool person, you don't stick around for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
You'll be gone in like a few years. So like everyone that's left is just like really cool people. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it's like, why not hang out with these cool people?
Yeah. Or at least like most of it, I think it's like cool people or people who
Yeah.
are dicks, but they have to hide it.
Yeah, that's true. They do a really good job at
Yeah.
masking it.
Or reformed dicks. Yeah. But I think,
Yeah.
but yeah, all this stuff really does like help towards, contracts. Cause I think,
Yeah.
uh, I'm waiting for that moment where I'm, let's say I work in production one day and, I go into an interview with, you know, the soup on the other side of the interview and it's actually a close friend. I mean,
Yeah.
that'd be
That would be the
pretty
nicest
sick.
interview ever. That wouldn't even be an interview. That'd just be
Yeah,
a
that'd be great. Like, I mean, I'm waiting for
It'll
that.
just be a
Like,
catch up. It would just be like, yo,
yeah,
how
I
the
talked to you
kids
last
or
week. Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, I talked to you last week, but let's do this formal thing. But I think that would be pretty fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's what that's why I think you need to keep good relationships,
Yeah.
and
And
that's
it's
the ultimate leverage, honestly.
yeah,
Like,
that is
yeah,
the ultimate leverage. That's true.
yeah,
Like forget all the skills thing. 'Cause at some point you're gonna have the skills.
yeah,
Like if you
yeah.
get to being in like a mid to senior role, like you already have the skills.
Hmm.
You just need it's like what more can you add to give
Yeah,
you a boost and when you like go for jobs and stuff. And
yeah.
then the crazy thing is like when I talk to like Raf, who's my animation soup,
Hmm.
and he's been around for a long time. He's been around in the industry for like, like 20 years or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but like when he talks about people that he used to study,
Hmm.
they're like, it's like the names that come up are insane. Like Carlos Baena,
That's
like these
crazy.
kind of dudes that are like OGs. They're like,
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
they're like soups now. They work on set
yeah,
now. They have
yeah,
their own production company, and it's like the that's just the natural progression for, I
yeah.
guess, when you've been around in the industry for a long time.
Hmm.
These people who are like everyone just keeps
Yeah,
growing and becoming more and more like senior and more like
yeah,
in these bigger roles. So definitely can't afford to mess
yeah.
it up.
I mean, yeah, like, I mean, don't fret over it too much. I mean, I've said some pretty stupid things. Like, in like, when I go out, like, for example, when we were drinking, I'm pretty sure like, I said some pretty bad stuff to Raph before. But it's
Yeah,
also
I'm pretty
like,
sure I said some pretty bad stuff too
yeah,
on some of those nights down.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think it's like, it's okay. It's just more, you know, creating that relationship. And,
Yeah.
you know, like, you don't have to watch over everything you say, but you just need to have a,
Yeah.
a
It's more
good
about how
vibe,
you present yourself
Yeah.
than it is how you
Yeah.
like you could sound dumb, it's fine, but
Yeah.
if you present yourself in a way that's like friendly and
Hmm.
people want to hang out with you, that's the big
Hmm.
difference. It's like, yeah, he says dumb things, but I love the guy.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you want to give off.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
But
or
yeah.
the guy's really smart, but he's not a dick. He's not
Yeah.
like one of those intellectual snobs. He's like, He's just
Yeah.
really smart, but he's really cool to hang out with.
Thanks for watching or listening to our content. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again. Peace.